Hello,
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 hello.
hello. It's Jesse Cervantes, and we're doing an offset time tutorial. And we're going to show 3 different ways to do offset time. So the first one is right here. It's pretty basic. You see these come in and then they leave, sort of, just off from each other a little bit. This one can get a little bit complex, but we'll make it as simple as possible, running on expressions. And if you come over here, there's actually a time controller slider that you can control the speed at which every subsequent layer follows. And when you duplicate the layers, you see they just continue to follow suit depending on how far away the time is. So that's pretty cool. And then the third one uses a time displacement map. And so there's one of them. And if I come over here, I think it's the top layer, yep, and change the displacement map, you see it turns into a very different kind of displacement. Now, all 3 of these methods you can go berserk with. I mean, it could spend probably a half an hour in each one. And so I'm going to try to get this maybe a half an hour in all 3. So, if I can get this done in that amount of time, I'll be pleased. Just real quick, this tutorial was inspired by this guy, Vinicius Arua. He says, "Nice tut, thanks. Can you explain how you did this nice offset?" So last week I made this wiggle and looping in one parameter, and on Vimeo this guy wrote this, and here's what that offset looked like. And I was gonna do it, and I thought, well, why not just go all the way? I mean, why stop there? Why not take it to the next page? And here's his page, and there's a spaceship. He's only got a few videos, but if you come over to the channels, it's pretty cool. This guy is basically an aggregator, a one-man aggregation factory of really cool tutorials. So he's got Cinema 4D ones, he's got After Effects ones, he's got cool motion design videos. So a cool guy to follow if you're interested in seeing some of this kind of stuff. And in the meantime, let us get started. So I'm just going to make a brand new comp, 1280 by 720, and so I'm just going to double click up here on the rectangle tool, and going to go ahead and let this, give this thing a fill. That looks nice, and make the stroke 0 for now. And then come down here to the rectangle path, and on the size I'm just going to make it 200 by 200. So it's just pretty small rectangle right in the middle. And just so it's a little bit more interesting to look at, I'm going to duplicate it. Go ahead and turn the fill off on the second one on top, and turn the stroke, leave it white, and just take it up to like 25. Then I'm going to move it sort of down and over a little bit, and I'm going to turn on the alpha channel right here so you can see what's about to happen. When I hit this, go over toggle and switches, when I hit this T, it creates a track matte. So now the white only shows up when it's over the layer underneath it. So I'm just going to kind of get that out of the way a little bit. Actually going to just scale it up to like 102. That way it's a little bit easier to manipulate. Duplicate it one more time, and then move it in the opposite direction and make this one black. And then I'll see if we can make sure that there we go. And then go to both of them, hit T, and turn the opacity down to like 35. Okay, so there we have just, a little bit more interesting shape. Move the light one on top of the dark one. Okay, and then I'll take all 3 of these. I'm going to hit Shift Command C and move all attributes, and I'll call this square. And what I probably should have done in the first place, I'm going to do right now. I'm going to go, so right now, if I put a background on here, I'm going to hit Command Y and just add a background. And actually, let's go ahead and just make it. I'll do call it a ramp, and make it radial. I mean, if we're going to do this, we could half bottom it. Now, who would say that? Half tush it? We can half-ass this thing if we wanted to, but I'm not going to. Hit this thing and then just make it white, and then I'll move this out a little bit. Okay, And then on the square, we'll add a drop shadow. And the point is, I want to make this you know, a little bit easier to animate. Move the drop shadow sort of in the same direction as the dark part. Move it out a little bit more and fuzz it up. Okay, so I'm going to go back into this comp. And let me come out. So this comp right now is as big as the entire screen. It's big as the comp is 1280 by 720, and I'd really would prefer it to be just the same size as the square. So I'm going to go back into this comp, hit Command K, and just the aspect ratio is not locked, so I'm going to make it 200 because I remember I made the square 200 by 200. So now it's just the same size. And then come out here, and so now it's the same size. All right. Okay. So in this case, I want to actually, I'm just going to leave it like this for a second. I'm going to come out here to, you know, 15 or so. Hit P. Make a position keyframe. Come out here to 1. Add another keyframe. Go to the beginning. Move it off to the right. Come over here to, you know, 15 after. Move it off to the left. Then I'm going to function 9. Shift R to get the rotation, and kind of do the same thing in a sense. Come over here, let it go, you know, to 180. Come over here, have it start at 90, negative 90, and then have it come here, 180, and you can just add plus 90 if you don't feel like doing the math, and then function 9. So then it should come in, stop, rotate, and then go out. Okay. And so I want to scale this thing up because it's a little bit smaller than I would like it to be right this second. But if I scale it up, you see it pixelizes, it pixels. Pretty rough. It's not attractive. So all you got to do in that case is just hit this sun over here, collapse transformation, and it goes back to following the you know, the shape layers underneath it. It just becomes regular shape layers. So it comes in and then goes out. And so in this case, because I scaled it up, hit U, just move it, the position out a little bit further in this direction. Come over here, move it out a little bit further in this direction. All right. Now I'm going to pre-comp this. So this is square, and I'm going to Shift Command C, and I'm going to call this 1 offset. Okay, so this is going to be the first version of the offset. This comp is, hold on. All right, I made a mistake. I'm going to Command Z. So really important stuff here, folks. Shift Command C. I need to move all attributes into the new composition, including the keyframes. So make sure you move all attributes. Call it 1 offset. And now this comp is as big as the screen, and there's no keyframes, it's just the animation happening. So the way you did the first offset was simply duplicate this, scale it down to 75%, duplicate it again, scale it down to 50%, duplicate it again, and scale it down to 25%. So what's happening now is that each comp is just the size that you scale it down to. So it's sort of a fake offset. So it comes in, it does its thing, and it goes out. And then if you wanted to, you could just right. So I'm holding Command 3, 4, 5 right arrow, and you know, just move these over a little bit. Command right arrow 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Command right arrow 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then you know you can do something like this too. All right, so that's the technique. I'm going to hit the motion, turn the motion blur on. And okay, so I did this on purpose. I turned the motion blur on, but there's nothing happening. That's because this motion blur is happening in this comp, and there's no keyframes. As far as this comp is concerned, there's nothing happening. It's just the information is happening underneath. In order for that to happen, you have to go inside the previous comp that has the actual animation and turn on the motion blur there. Yeah. Now it should work. Still doesn't seem to be working. I think it's because the collapse transformation is on, so I'm going to turn the motion blur on the original. And now it's on. All right, so a little troubleshooting there, and maybe it'll save you a little bit of pain and agony. By the way, there is a tutorial on the collapse transformation thing on the Creative Congo website. So here's the first version of the offset, and that's how you can do it. All right, so I'm going to make a new comp, and I'm going to call this to offset. And I'm just going to bring in the original square. Oops, Command Z, make a new comp, and make sure that it's 1280 by 720. Tab, 720. And then I will bring in the original square. Okay, and there's no animation on it, it's just the original square that we made. I'll just come over here into this comp and grab this background, Command C, and put it in here, Command V. All right, and then put it behind. And just leave the color for now. All right, so I'm going to scale this down just a little bit to 75%. This next one can be very complicated if you think about it too much, and you should think about it, but this is not the time or the place. I'll start by saying that when I first wanted to learn how to do this, I was searching online and I came across this on creativecow.net. This guy, Darby Edelin, had this information, and so basically I copied this and put it onto a document. So here's the original information he offers. Now it just says here the offset time, -0.5 seconds. That's the offset. P is the parent layer, and T is that, and then value of the parent's position, blah blah blah. So I'm gonna just Command C this, come into here. I'm going to put an animation on this first. All right, so put a position keyframe, move it out 1 second, move it down over here, and then just sort of give it a little wave. And then function 9. And then I'll option click on it and put LOOP, capital OUT, open parentheses, quotation mark, cycle, because that's the kind we're going to do, close quotation mark, close parentheses, semicolon. You don't have to do a semicolon, just a nice habit to have. And then you see, oops, it's doing cycle, and I needed it to ping pong. I did the wrong kind. So inside the quotation marks, I'm going to write PING, PONG, all lowercase, no space. And now it'll just go back and forth, okay? So that's cool. That's pretty much what we want. And actually I'm going to just give it a little bit more. I don't know, for some reason okay. So now it's just doing this. Okay. And that white is a little bit too much in the background, so I'm going to unlock that. Turn this, it's going to make it a little more subtle. All right. So now I'm going to duplicate this one and hit P, option click on it. Oops, first of all, get rid of the keyframes. Move it so they're right at the same spot. Then get rid of the keyframes for the one on top. Option click. And now I'm just going to paste in the code that he said, so Command V. Now, with expressions, these two forward slashes are sort of saying just ignore this. It's sort of like an HTML code if you put something that you don't want to, that you just want to be ignored. So you can leave this here or you can delete it. It doesn't matter. I'm going to leave it here just to keep as a reference because it will be useful. The parent layer. So the thing I got to do is change this P, highlight all this, and then pick whip the parent layer. That's the one at the bottom that says square. So I'm going to pick whip it, and then everything else I'm just going to leave it alone. And now you see that it works. Now we could get into why this works and all that kind of stuff. I'll leave that up to you. The point is, if you take this code and you pop it in, it works. Well, that's good at first, and maybe you don't want it to be 0.5, maybe 0.25 in this case. And so it's right behind there. Great. The problem is when I duplicate this again, then the next one is also following at the exact same speed, and I can go to U and change this to 0.5, and then it'll be that much further behind. But the problem is, if you had a whole bunch of these, this could get very painful. And what if you wanted to change the speed at which they're going? So that's what we're going to take care of now. Going to go to the bottom layer, and I'm going to just hit return, and I'm going to call this leader, and I'm going to give it another color. This is like just something to do to sort of keep yourself from getting confused down the line. So the orange layer is going to be the leader layer. Come over here and hit slider. I'm just going to add a slider control. And I'm going to call the slider control time. Oops, time. All right. So I'm going to come back into here, hit U. And for the offset, rather than having it be a number, I'm going to come back. Okay, going to come back here, make sure that I can see this slider control. Come back here. And from the equal sign to the semicolon, highlight it, grab the pick whip, and then take it up to the slider. And then now you see they're right touching each other, but I can use a slider control to move it. Now you see it's moving like dramatically and all over the place. That's because the number here, 7, is seconds. Every whole number is a whole second, and it's moving by a whole number, so it's moving like way faster than you would want it to. I'm going to go back to 0. And on the actual slider, hit Control and click, and then edit value, and change the slider range to 1. So it's just going to go from 0 to 1. And now you have a lot more precise control over how far. Well, that's cool. Now you have control, but you still have the same problem, because when you duplicate it again, this one is still going to be on the same plane as the one before it. So you got to go one step further. U. And I'm going to put this code on the Creative Congo website. So in this case, you could just grab the code, and all you have to do is change what the P layer is, to your parent layer. Now, the numbers here, the number 1 is in expression language the index. 2, so the index of the leader layer is 2. The index of the black solid is 3. And as I duplicate these further, the index will continue to go up and up and up. I'm going to get rid of those top 3. Oops. Oops, Command Z. All right, U. So what I need to do is here, for the time plus offset multiplied by, that's the asterisk over the number 8, just write the word index. So now it's going to be the offset times the index. So in this case, it would be the offset times 1, which is what it is. And when I duplicate it again, it's the offset times 2, 3, 4, etc., etc. And now all you got to do is use the slider control to determine how far behind you want the other one to be behind it. So that's how that works. And if I just well, you know what? That's good enough. This is how this whole thing works. Now there's one. I'm going to just do one quick thing real quick. I'm going to come to this square and duplicate it, and open it up, and change the color from to let's make it orange, yellow, fine. And then I'll duplicate it again and open it up, and I'll make this one red. Oh, whatever. Okay, come back into our comp, and I'm just going to highlight this one in the middle and hold down the Option or the Alt key and drop the yellow one, the red one, on top of it. And I'll come to this one back here and drop the yellow one on top of it. So now they're changing colors. Now it'll be a little bit more obvious. Okay, so I'm going to take this one, the orange one, and move it down. Oops, I'm going to move it up 2, so it's on top. Okay, so the problem that we have is that this is the leader layer. The one on the bottom is a blue layer that's leading everything. But yet the number 1 layer is the one that's on top because of the way it's working with the multiplication and the index, the way we set up the expression. If I move this to the top, then the timing gets changed a little bit. And the thing is, if you move these around, you can affect sort of the way they look and the way they randomize on top of each other. All right, method number 3. Going to make a third comp, 1920 by 1080, going to drop the square that we animated. I guess it's this one maybe? Yeah. So here's the square that we have that's the animation on it. And again, I'm going to just take that backdrop, Command C, put it over here, Command V, move it to the bottom. Alright, so here we have that basic animation just happening again. So this effect, I'm going to show you the absolute basics of it, and if you want to take it a step further, well, you can take it a million steps further. And I'll show you right now, this guy here, Matt Trunks from France, really awesome guy with shape layers, has fantastic tutorials, and he's got one. Oh, you can't see the premium. Well, you got to pay for some of the tutorials, and one of them you got to pay for is called Sexy Offset. I'm not sure where it is, but it's incredible, and I totally recommend taking the time to look at it and to purchase it. Oh, here, let's go to all tutorials. Taking the time to pick it up and take a look at it. It's like $1, I think, €1 or something. This method I'm about to show you takes like to the extreme with this kind of thing. So anyway, here's the animation. So all I'm going to do now is just turn these off for a second. I'm going to go Command Y and make a black solid and just leave it. Then I'm going to duplicate the black solid, Shift Command Y to get to the solid settings, and make this one 50%. Like perfect 100% gray. Then I'm going to scale it down to 80%. Oops. I'm going to Command Z, unlock it, then scale it down to 80%. No, I think it's 60. And yeah, so I have my proportional grid set up to fifths, so you can check there. If you want to set up your proportional grid up to fifths, come up here to Preferences, Grids and Guides. Yours is probably on thirds. Just change it here, proportional grid to 5. I just changed the color to purple. It's like purple. Duplicate it again, Shift Command Y to get to the settings, and then make this one 100% white, and scale it down to 20%. Okay, and then I'm going to pre-comp this, Shift Command C, and call it Map 1. Alright, so I'm going to turn this one back on. And now the animation, let me turn this off. So now the animation is going to happen over this. And so the way this works is, gray is the exact same time. Perfect 100% white is the number forward, and perfect 100% back is the number backward. So it's negative, this is whole, and this is plus. Think about that way. Negative space is negative, whatever it is. This is normal, and this is plus. I could have this backwards, so let's find out. I'm going to come up here to Animation, Effect, Time, and Time Displacement. And now there's a time displacement effect on this animation. It's important to know that you have to pre-comp the map for this to work, and I think the animation might even have to be a pre-comp. If you look right here, it looks really messed up. After Effects even having trouble, because right now all you gotta do is take the time displace layer to map 1, and there you see it. So if you go backwards, right now, okay, so the white is forward, yep, and that's time. So you can kind of see what's happening here. I'm actually going to go into this animation and just move all the keyframes back a little bit, and then come back over here so that at the beginning it's still there. So at the beginning is nothing there, and then you'll see this will come in first, and then that, and then that's because the time displacement right now is way off. 1 is way too big, so I'm going to put 0.25, and now it's much closer. And then it comes in, and then all you got to do is turn the map off so you can't see it, and then turn the bottom layer back on, and so you get this displaced time kind of thing. Render that out. And so that's another way to get offset time. If you want it to look a little bit different, let me just turn this down to like half so we can actually watch it. Give it 1 second. probably shouldn't have turned the motion blur on, but whatever. All right, if you want it to look a little bit different, I'm going to come up here and go to map 1, duplicate it, open it up, and then I'm going to add a new null object, chain all these to the null. R, going to rotate it 90 degrees, and then scale it till it fits the screen. Come back into here, drop map 2, and then just turn it off so you can't see it. Go to the offset and change to map 2, and now you'll see you'll have a very different result. So, depending on how the map is, there's one version, and if you change it to map 1, there's another version. And again, these are very powerful effects, really cool stuff you can do. I hope this tutorial has been helpful and useful. The code for the second version will be in the notes section on Vimeo, YouTube, or of course, CreativeCongo.com. Thanks for watching, y'all.